Hello, welcome back to my channel. It's dedicated towards creating narcissistic abuse awareness, and more so from a biblical standpoint. I have been looking at the different ways in which children are groomed to become abusers in the future, toxic or narcissistic. The very first one I looked at, children being subjected to watching their parents fighting, basically undergoing domestic violence. One thing people don't get is that children who are subjected to domestic violence are subjected to child abuse, and that rewires the child's brain. Two, this is where children exposed to excessive pampering. These children fail to develop an identity of their own. In the end, you find that they are caught up in trying to please their parents. So you're finding parents are living vicariously through the children, and children are pleasing their parents because they recognize that when I'm doing what they want, I'm recognized. When I don't do what they want, I am thrown to the gutters. So the only thing for me to do is to do as they tell me. And these parents, because they are egocentric, everything that is being done is for their own benefit. So even if they attended the sports gala, they attended every kind of school activity of this child, it may appear like they are there for their children, but it's because you may find the child is very good at sports, so the glory goes back to the parent. Let's say the dad, it's like, you're a great sportsman like your dad, you're a great this like your mom. If it's say beauty contest, you're as beautiful as your mom. Such comments, they appear like they are complimenting the child, but actually the parent is taking the shine at that point because it is all about the parent. So children do not develop a healthy sense of identity because everything is about the other parent. They cannot stand on their own. And I'll talk about this at a later stage. Enmeshment or emotional incest or emotional rape. This comes in a lot, and you'll find especially among the golden children, the most favorite child in the family. Yeah, it happens to them. So this in the end affects their sense of identity. Now the third one today I'm going to be talking about is directly affecting the children, and this is child abuse. Epigenetics is still playing a huge role here, and actually majorly. Around the early 2000s, Pfizer Permanente and CDC partnered, and they carried out studies about children. They categorized their issues in three ways. That was abuse, household challenges, and neglect. There were 10 questionnaires which were given to these children. They had to fill in, such as physical abuse, sexual abuse, 3 emotional abuse, 4 mother or stepmother or father or stepfather subjected to violence by their partner. This covers the very first example I gave of how people become narcissistic in future when they are subjected to that toxic environment. They may not be directly beaten, but they watch the people they hold dear to them being subjected to violence. That can make a child check out. 5, household substance abuse. This is where there's someone who is addicted either to drugs or alcohol. 6, mental illness. 7, parental separation or divorce or death. 8, someone incarcerated in the family. That could be a father or mother, as in they went to prison or they are in prison. 9, emotional neglect. 10, physical neglect. And they discovered the higher the numbers the child ticked, the more they were prone to illnesses in the future. You're looking at neurological issues, you're looking at heart issues. Children become dysfunctional. All these disorders we hear of, someone is bipolar, someone is schizophrenic, someone is this histrionic, have an underlying base in child abuse. The very first environment the child is in is the womb. So if a mother is being subjected to abuse outside, the mother is releasing cortisol. Cortisol, like I told you, is a very good hormone. It helps one in the daily runnings. However, in the face of danger, it's impossible for the parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous systems to be coherent at that point. And in the midst of danger, we are looking at the sympathetic nervous system. This is where the heart is racing. Basically, one is looking out for their survival. If a mother is subjected to constant abuse, her body continuously releases cortisol. Unfortunately, this cortisol can get into the fetus, and there are some known diseases that are directly linked to cortisol. By the time the child comes out, the child is already damaged. So you can imagine, just while still in the womb, they're already subjected to that. When they are born, remember, the mother is still in this toxic environment. As the first 3 years of a child's life is when neurons are growing faster than ever. What forms early then becomes the footmark. It becomes the blueprint. It becomes the default mode for the child. When the child is still left in an intense environment of abuse, like the ones I've listed, the child appears like they are quote unquote mad. Some of them go silent. Before you know it, you're hearing different things about who the child is. They cannot think. If a child is continuously left in a toxic environment, the child cannot move past the brain stem. It's responsible for the fight-flight response to the limbic area. The limbic area is where we see the emotional aspect of a human being coming into light. The limbic area has got the hippocampus and the amygdala. The hippocampus is responsible for memory. If a child is subjected to abuse, that memory is never stored. Another part, the amygdala, is responsible literally for the emotions such as fear, love, which they call empathy, envy, jealous, doubt, and all that. When a child is undergoing abuse, encases the empathy and discards it because they were not worth looking at, it can never be traced again. Empathy goes along with any positive other emotion, such as hope, joy, happiness, peace. All those things go away, never to be God. What remains is now fear, envy, rage. Think of every negative kind of emotion stays there, and it grows. After a while, it starts shrinking. However, even if it shrinks, the amygdala now, even if it shrinks, those emotions stay. Emotionally, that child is empty, is void of empathy. But other areas, the child will continue to function. And this can also be another thing for parents to watch out for. You can find that your child is very good at maybe mathematics or physics, something like that. They are so good, but there's something empty about them. Parents who are not attuned to their children, their child excels in physics, and they walk away, their child is, the smartest around. That child is obsolete of empathy. They are full of themselves, they cannot see it. Now the prefrontal lobe, which is the executive decision area, this is responsible for judgment, decision making. These are people who react, then think. You can see how abuse has rewired one's brain. What would have been a normal situation for the child to pick on, the child cannot do it anymore. And this is also where you'll find that some children are told they are stupid. They are not stupid. That child is undergoing abuse, and the child does not know how to regulate themselves. Some of the behavior that you need to watch out for, the child can throw a tantrum. When the mother comes back, they kind of don't care that their mothers have come back. And if you, the mother, you sit back and think, it's okay, the child is growing. You do not realize this, but you are creating a monster. Abuse takes away the godliness out of a child. You cannot train a child the godly way when the child is being abused. God said that it is better for you to have a millstone wrapped around your neck and thrown in the sea than to make one of these to reject him. Now you, the mother who stays in that situation, you are enabling the abuse. In so doing, you're also part of the people God is going to judge for that. You did not protect the children. The child being subjected to this abuse has now groomed them and made them ready to be abusive or toxic in the future. Children are not diagnosed when they are still young, though some psychologists were pushing for it, because there are certain things, telltale signs that are so obvious, such as strangling chickens, killing the cat, hanging it, enjoying to see people in pain, sadism, enjoying to see the maybe dog or cat hanging there, and it's wiggling while it's just trying to fight for its life, and the child is the child is ecstatic about it. Parents, those are not good signs. Children can't make sense of an unsafe environment or an abusive parent. So you find that these children try to mold themselves based on the parent to survive, to avoid being in the line of fire. Unfortunately, that comes at a cost, and the cost is abandoning their neutral self, and then they embrace this abuser here. And this is where you'll also see the birth of misogyny or misandry. There are lots of issues that come under this abuse. Parents, I encourage you, if you're in an abusive situation, leave. God the Father does not subject God the Son to abuse. God the Holy Spirit does not abuse God the Father. You get? Marriage should be a reflection of Elohim. If Elohim is living as one, how come you're not living as one? If one of you is acting like the devil incarnate, you are living in an unholy matrimony. God does not want you in an unholy matrimony. He says, do not be equally yoked to an unbeliever. Leave that unbeliever alone and go back to your first love. You are committing spiritual adultery. You are committing idolatry. Literally, you are breaking the very first commandment God gave. Love thy God with all thy heart, spirit, soul, and body, which you're not doing. If you are staying in an abusive marriage or relationship for the sake of children, the irony of staying in an abusive marriage is that the very reason you thought you were avoiding will be the very reason they will encounter when you stay. You are growing a generation of abusers also. Oh, you're growing a generation of people who comply to abuse, thereby going against the very word of God regarding love. Love does not abuse. Abuse is oppression in progress. Christ came to redeem the oppressed. My people perish for lack of knowledge. Knowledge, like I said, is the art, and the art is ready to love. My people perish for lack of understanding. Love. Please look out for your mental health. Love is not abusive. God is love. God is not abusive. I encourage you to seek therapy from a certified Christian therapist and pray. Pray. God watches over you. He came to redeem the oppressed, and you who is undergoing abuse, you're oppressed. Seek his face. He will not let you down. The God who knew you before you were formed in your mother's womb watches over you, loves you, and wants you redeemed from oppression. Thank you so much for watching. Blessings.